every time we're doing groups, every time we're doing interactions and programming, for me, it's like we're all learning in it and growing, and God is challenging each one of us.
Yep.
So as we're going in the group, we're learning from our residents too.
Well, hello, friends. We are excited to have two incredible guests on today's podcast episode. I say guests, but you know what? You guys are truly ingrained in the Greenlight family. We've got Michelle, who is our program manager, as well as Adele, who has been serving faithfully for years within Greenlight, but most recently started serving in the programming capacity. So on today's episode, what we're going to talk about is survivor restorative care, the programming that Greenlight Operation offers, and we'll get to tell some stories about the successes we've seen, as well as areas that we are growing into. So very excited to have Michelle and Adele on today's episode. Ladies, would you share a bit of maybe your background and why you're in the programming setting to begin with?
Well, I've taught school for almost 30 years, second graders. It's a little bit different than the women we are serving today. I feel like I've always leaned towards the teaching type of career. Retiring from teaching last June, I was really looking for opportunities within Greenlight to continue teaching. And just really was interested in the programming part. Getting certified in the program, ending the game, really gave me more tools to be able to serve in a better capacity. And, working on different book discussions and things with residents has really, again, helped them gain tools, and myself being able to walk alongside them and support them in their journey.
Yes, and it's been great timing for you, Adele. When I heard that you were going to be retiring and I knew the home would be opening about the same time, I was thrilled because I could just see things aligning up and all the gifting that you have. As she's also a life coach and a personal trainer as well, which also comes in handy in offering some of our life skills and our health type related classes.
Sure does,
and
yeah.
exercise. Yeah. My background, I have a varied background. I would say when it comes to this context, the biggest driver for me has always been to see healing for women. And basically, this is going to sound kind of weird saying it this way, but I think I just had a lot of issues, okay? So I had a lot of things in my life. I had a great life, but I had a lot of trauma that I recovered from and am still recovering from. And in that process, it just drove me to want to help women. And before I knew it, God had called me into a place of starting with teen moms and kids, working through women and trauma. I got my master's in Christian counseling and spent years myself first going through all these groups that we're offering. There's probably very little groups that I haven't been through myself, and some many, many times. And in the process of doing that, we spent years leading groups and helping people on their recovery process. And so I have a passion for that. I just have a passion to create community and see women heal and see people feel valued. So.
Yeah. You both are so incredibly gifted at meeting people where they're at and loving them, but also supporting them in growth and working towards that healing and recovery, which is it's a unique gift, because you can have a lot of people that may sit in that pain, but don't help a person work beyond that pain either. And so it is such a blessing to have both of you on the team. And you both were part of Greenlight during the launch phase of the restoration home, that pioneering as we're dreaming and planning, casting vision for what this program would entail. And then in the actual launch and all the adjustments that brings along with it, and you're still here. I don't know if that means we're all a little bit crazy. I think we all are a bit, but it also shows that there's true calling as well, because you wouldn't put yourselves in some of the challenges that can be faced when serving hurting and broken people if you didn't care about them, if you weren't called to it or have that passion. Could you share a little bit of what that journey has actually looked like, from going from launching a home to working through the programming that was actually established, some of the tweaking that goes on, but also, what's the real talk, the joys, the pains, where are we headed together as a team? And I know that's a lot, so we'll break it up into some like chunks, but what has that journey looked like so far for both of you?
I think one of the best comparisons I give to people is that for me, it felt like when you have your first child and your first-time parents. Yep. And you prepare all you can. You read, what's that book called? What to Expect When You're Expecting. All these things. Yep. And you talk to people who've been there, done that before you, give you all kinds of advice, and they tell you, get sleep before the baby arrives.
Right.
And you don't listen because you're like, oh, I can do this. And then all of a sudden the baby's here, and all of a sudden you're like, no one prepared me. I read all the books. Yes, what do I do with this baby?
Yes, right.
And so you have this baby, and then I know for me, it was like, I was afraid to put him down for a minute. I didn't want to make him feel rejected and, all these things. And you can get a little neurotic about it if you're not careful. But I feel like that was a process that we really pressed into God to say, okay, Lord, what do we do each day with this child? And I feel like that's, for me anyway, the first few weeks of the restoration home being open and getting our very first resident and working through that with many who have not served quite as long in trauma. It was a little bit like having a room full of first-time parents with a newborn.
It was.
And that's the best way to describe it. That same feeling of like exhilaration, but also exhaustion, of worry, but also times to pray. And for me personally, what I've loved to watch over the last 6 months is how much the team has grown. Within themselves to their level of confidence. In the beginning, there were a lot of questions, a lot of questions in millions of directions. But then slowly, as we were working things out and then having to rework things out, because each personality is different. So each woman coming in comes with a different personality and also some different needs.
Absolutely.
And so, we began to grow that way. And just watching the coaches now, where it's like they just have felt empowered to be able to interact, and the beautiful exchange that each personality of a coach is so different, and the love that they each bring is so similar. And for me, watching that in play and seeing what a huge piece of the healing journey that is for each resident is huge.
It's massive. I love the analogy and the picture you painted, because the other piece too, when you're a first-time parent, there is a worry, there's a fear. You don't want to put the baby down or leave the baby, but there's also so much love and overflowing love. And I think that piece of it too is very present in the home of that love. But we're growing, we're developing, we're getting we're backing up a bit and allowing the women to stretch their wings some. But Adele, what has it looked like for you in a volunteer capacity? You served as a coach, stepped into a lead coach role, and now you're transitioning to really supporting and assisting and programming. Can you share a bit of what that journey has looked like for you?
Well, I feel blessed to work with Michelle. She's taught me a lot of things. She has a lot of background where I came with ground zero, not having any background in human trafficking or even working with women except for a small women's Bible study or something like that. And I feel like I've learned to stop and be present. I'm push the agenda kind of girl, okay, this is the program for today. First, we're going to, do power up, then we're going to exercise, then we're going to get into our book discussion, then we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I've learned to be present, to listen, to affirm, just to give space when space is needed, and not sprint. It's a marathon.
Yes.
And I've just loved being part of the coach group and just the love, as Michelle had mentioned. We all come with different skills, different personalities, and just how we have meshed so well and lifting each other up when someone's down, being able to pray with someone. And when we're at moments of exhilaration, just celebrating together and, celebrating with the resident, when, something, she celebrates a victory. It's so great to be a part of the team. So I just have been honored to be a part of it all.
It's been beautiful, and seeing the different blendings of giftings and backgrounds too, because we need iron sharpens iron. And that has been a beautiful piece of it too, where we have been able to see how different giftings of people coming in have sharpened us over these past 6 months. But we're also seeing where folks are falling into the lanes of their gifts, their strengths, their skill sets. And it's not going to end. That continues as people grow and develop. And it's been beautiful. But similarly, too, for the women we serve. What has programming looked? Actually, before we jump into what programming has looked like, do you mind explaining our restoration home program and what the model looks like that we follow, and some of the ways that we're what does success look like within the program? And I know that is varied for some women, but can you explain a bit of our restoration home program, what you guys are doing, and what that looks like?
So our Restoration Home program is a 12 to 18-month program. It's based on a triune care model, and we work in a restorative care team setting. So all that means, it's a bunch of fancy words. It just means we're focusing on body, soul, and spirit. And at the same time, there's a group of us that convene to discuss things, to be able to pray together, bring unity to a decision making. Some programs might be driven by case manager only, which puts a lot of pressure on the case manager sometimes, because then if they decide someone is not progressing in the program, it falls on that one person. Whereas what we're doing is we're being able to bring our different seats on the bus, different roles into conversation, because each person will be able to view what's going on in the program from a different viewpoint of the role. So when we're doing this, we're moving them through 3 phases. I like to call it breathe, believe, belong. Yeah. For those of you that follow the more traditional model, it's stability, growth, and independence. What I call the breathe phase is when they first come in. It's basically giving them just that, space to breathe. They're tired. They come in often with the clothes on their back. That's it. So often they've had a break from care in terms of services, mental or dental, mental health care, medication might be all over the place. So the primary focus in those first 3 months is just getting all of that established, getting a goal plan established. What are we working on? During that phase, they would have things like life skills imparted, from cooking to nutrition to sleeping well, therapy, all those kind of things. Then we're moving, depends on each person, but around month 4-ish, start moving more into a believe phase or a growth phase. And that might be where we're starting, well, it definitely is, where we're starting to look at, okay, so this was your goal, so how are we going to get you from A to B? And that's where we start looking at employment or education or both. And that's where we start moving with them at their pace. We start going through things and moving towards getting some job skills, some employment under their belt, and then into the final phase, independence or belonging, so that when they come into that phase, they basically have moved towards independence that they're looking for when they graduate the program.
Right. Yeah, and it's very interesting to see. Sometimes it feels like there are days where they're very small incremental steps. And then there are other days where you feel like, my goodness, we just did some massive leaps and bounds through these varying elements. And what is so special is to see, as you noted, as we function as a restorative care team, from the feedback from coaches who are walking alongside a survivor in her day-to-day life skills, to the programming elements, to our licensed counselor that is providing feedback. We're moving and shaping and molding all of these different parts and helping each woman, though, progress through those 3 phases. And Michelle, you hit something very important. It looks different for each woman. Sometimes they may be ready in, 8 months. Others, they might be closer to that 12 to 18 month capacity before they go on to live independently. But it's amazing to see, though, it's almost like a different person from stabilization through independence, because you're talking stabilization, just getting that level of homeostasis. Like you said, breathing. I think one to not gloss over is sleeping well. So many survivors just come in and they have not had a good night's sleep, and who knows how long. And that's significant. But to see a person stabilize, to then be at a place where they're driving off campus, they're getting a job, she is taking courses in education. It's a night and day difference. And you guys get to be part of that day to day and what that looks like. Adele, what has it looked like for you as someone who came in the volunteer capacity, how would you explain some of the programming for a person who has maybe never been part of a restoration home or even heard of one? What are some ways that you would summarize that, or things that you have seen that are very unique?
Well, I love that the Residence Day is started out with Power Up.
Yeah.
And it's gaining perspective, affirmations, really tuning into what you're grateful for, and giving some relational short stories and things, and just to get conversation going for the day. And then to be able to move on to movement, and just see the growth there. And then getting into programming with book discussions. We've been doing the book Boundaries, and just equipping the residents. It's just been such a blessing as a coach to see, as I may have mentioned, light bulb moments where something is coming up in book discussion and in our programming and ending the game. Wow, the same thing came up. And a coach came in and she decided just to have a Bible study, just to read through the book of Romans with the resident. And it hits on kind of the same thing. And I think just as a coach, being able to see just everything aligning, and the resident making connections, and just being amazed and in awe of how the Lord is working, and how in so many different facets they are seeing the Lord working, and are it's just amazing. And just being a coach and being able to be a part of that, and then being able to be within the programming, part of the program, has been amazing to just be able to help residents kind of unlock those things in their lives.
It's beautiful. And one of the biggest things we've often heard from survivors in settings from those who we serve, as well as survivors that we have connected with in preparation for the program, where some of the key pieces for them in the healing process was, I needed somebody just to listen to me, just to be with me and just to listen. I needed time. But I think another key one as well is the safety component, somewhere where they feel safe to talk and to be listened to, as well as to have that time to work through it. And these are all things that are offered at the restoration home. But each woman, as we noted, can come in with a diversity of needs, whether those are mental health needs that we've got to work through, adjusting medications, or helping her in coping mechanisms for various things that she is carrying. It could also be life skills. That's a huge part of what we do at the restoration home, is teaching a person how to live independently and regain their autonomy and their independence. So sometimes a coach might be coming in and they're teaching them how to do dishes, cook a well-balanced meal, create a grocery list. We do that every Monday, where we're sitting down, we're meal planning, doing groceries, but it's not the team that's going out and doing all that. We are bringing along survivors to do that, because these are their life skills that they're learning. But it's almost like parenting in a way, but in a more specialized manner. So what are some other highlights and things that you guys have seen over these past 6 months, which is hard to believe that at the time of us recording this, we are 6 months into the restoration home being open, women living there. We have not, I think one of the things I give thanks for regularly is the team has been steadfast and consistent. And our coaches, who are volunteer coaches, have been very present since the very beginning. And it brings that consistency that the women truly need. But what are the things that you guys have seen in these past 6 months as we have, since we've opened the doors?
I was going to say one thing that's been, as you've been talking, that's come up on my heart that I think is important to mention, or at least from my perspective, is that we may be equipping residents with life skills and things like that, but I think it's important to note that these women also bring so much to the table for us to learn. And I love that part of it. I have loved that part for decades, working alongside people who, quite frankly, some of our society wouldn't bother to say hello to. I'm just going to be honest with you.
It's very true.
Because they can be turned off by the challenges that come with it. What I have discovered and consider a privilege is that each person has a right to be here, and they bring so much to the table. And when we don't do our part in coming alongside and learning from each other, I feel like society is served injustice, actually, because God created them to be at the table. And so if they're not at the table, then we're all missing out. And we have learned, I love it, every time we're doing groups, every time we're doing interactions and programming, for me, it's like we're all learning in it and growing, and God is challenging each one of us. So as we're going in the group, we're learning from our residents too. And I love to watch the special interactions that they may share with their child, or, just how wonderful they approached a challenge, and I was just like, wow, you did a fabulous job. You're really a good mom. Like, that was amazing. I learned something from that.
Right.
Or watching, I chuckle a little bit because, sometimes it can be a double-edged sword, because we start a group and then, we're doing boundaries, and all of a sudden they're practicing their conflict management, which is wonderful, but that any one day, any one of us could be on the table.
We're the target.
We could be on the table to have a discussion about boundaries. So I laugh about that. But it is good, because it also brings all of us,
It does.
we don't escape what God's trying to do in our lives too. So I find that to be such a special part of being involved with each other and with women walking forward. I think that's part of everybody's healing process.
It's huge, and it's fun. You guys are working so hard in the day in, day out. There's the muck, the mire, but there are some fun elements to it too. There is laughter that is part of that, as well as mourning that occurs. And for listeners that maybe have followed Greenlight Operation, or maybe they're tuning in for the very first time, I want to very briefly just explain what human trafficking is, so that folks understand too the complexity of what we're dealing with and the lifelong healing journey survivors are working through. So for those who maybe aren't aware of what human trafficking is, it's the buying and selling of human beings. So if you want to get into legal definition, you've got force, fraud, or coercion that have been present to exploit a person for forced labor, commercial sex acts. And I think the thing for many of us that is so shocking is how prevalent it is. And Michelle, like you said, these are women and men and children that are right in front of us that are doing day-to-day life. They're not people that are chained up in basements or attics or the white van scenario, but we are serving alongside women that were going to church regularly, that were very much present, shopping for their groceries every single week, going and attending school, but their exploitation was missed and passed over. People didn't recognize it and just looked at them as their trouble. I don't want to go near that. Which is very sad, because then it continues to isolate a person into the challenges that they have. So when we set up the restoration home and the objective of the healing process, we wanted the individuals we serve that have for so long been neglected and unseen to be seen, to be heard, to have safety. And what has been beautiful about our community of supporters is they too value that and have facilitated the opportunity for us to have a home that is dedicated to serving women that have been exploited in this way. And that doesn't take away the fact that it still happens to men and children as well. But it's so beautiful. And so we are hearing regularly, nobody has ever talked to me in this way, or I was never given a chance for something like this. And we know restorative care services are still few and far between. If you even consider, I'm going to go on a quick tangent and then we'll get back on track. This is just how I roll. If we consider the fact that even in 2017, for the very first time in Pennsylvania's history, human trafficking was defined in our legal code. 2017. And human trafficking has been around for forever, essentially, but we just defined it in 2017. So if we then think that all of a sudden there are going to be all these support services around for the hundreds of thousands of individuals that have been exploited in this way, it's simply not the case. So there are major gaps in services that still exist, and wonderful agencies that are coming up all around, or that have been here, that are serving survivors and working the front lines. But we also need to bring the awareness that this is an issue that is very prevalent in our community, that's very prevalent in central Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania at large. And there continue to be significant gaps in services, even with the faithful groups that are still serving. And so there are some areas that we're even growing and expanding in our restorative care services as we look to meet those very felt needs. And two, to the point of Michelle, are listening to the feedback of the very people we're serving. And one of those has been that continuum of care that is needed. So a person needs shelter. A person needs the programming and the structure that is present. But then two, what happens when a person leaves that structure, that safe housing, and they're living on their own? Do they suddenly have all those support services removed? And if so, they're not going to be set up for success. So we do our best to refer to other agencies when we see that opportunity, but we were also sensing in our hearts a very heavy burden to expand a little bit further in our programming, which happened very quickly. Most would say, get the home settled and in that. But God has really blessed us with an incredible team, and that reach is happening in the home and a door open for us to step further into restorative care programming. Can you guys explain a little bit about how we're doing that and what you've been working on to expand those services? You're like, oh man, here it is.
I'm assuming you're referring to the resource
Yes,
center.
ma'am.
I am so excited about the resource center.
Yeah.
As Michelle and I have worked through ending the game myself the first time, and just seeing the impact that that's had on our resident. I'm excited to be able to serve others in the community and even support residents as they graduate from our program with other programming that we can offer. I've just, in my little world, I've come across a few different women that need a service like this. And it would be in their community. And so I'm just really excited to be able to offer different services. So women from all around and women who might be involved in different programs but want to graduate into something else or need a little more support. I'm just really excited to be a part of that in extending what we're doing in the home into the resource center so we can better serve, whether it's through education, maybe life skills even involved there, or whatever that we can offer as far as our programming.
Yeah, we're still in infancy stage, I want to say, on this, just because primarily when we were thinking about the resource center and all the things that we could do there so that we wouldn't encroach upon on-site work that's being done and protect the privacy of the women that are living in the restoration home. One of the things that we were looking forward to is in the intake process, if we're doing some interviewing or the very first day when they come in and we have to do some preliminary onboarding and things like that, this provides us a private place to be able to do those things before we get out to the restoration home. Also, it gives us an opportunity to dream and to see what God wants to put in place, because there are other agencies that are doing groups in the area, and like Jordan said, we refer where we can, and we're hoping to be able to have, if we're offering a group that they could benefit from, it'd be great to have us all working together so that we're providing service to more and more people, because just like you said, there's so many people in the area who could benefit from different types of groups or life skill classes. We did mention that as well. This gives us an opportunity to be able to blend a little bit so that if someone doesn't want to be in the full 18-month program, they get the opportunity to come and attend some of the other services or classes we're offering.
It's significant. It is a beautiful location, and volunteers have allowed us to really expedite the process of getting the resource center physically prepared. It makes me laugh a bit every time I go in because it almost looks like it's fully ready. But if you take a step back and look, there are no walls or doors in place for some of our rooms and intake areas. We are celebrating. The building permit just got approved. We're moving forward with the construction over the summer. So it's been a funny little workaround in how we've been preparing it. But we have learned even through the process with opening the restoration home how to be scrappy with our resources and be incredibly resourceful and using the spaces we've been gifted with. And so what has been wonderful with the Resource Center is it serves as and will further serve as a hub for our team. As Michelle shared, the restoration home is an undisclosed location. We want that to remain so that those that are living there are safe. But it also limits some of the office space that we have then as a team, where vital planning needs to go into things like case management and our programming and growth initiatives. And so it gives us a hub as a team to be able to really work through those things. It also allows us to offer case management both in the home and outside of the home through the interactions that we are having in the referral process. So when we have a survivor calling and looking for services, and we find that maybe the restoration home is not the fit for what they're looking for, it gives us a chance to have a location where we can still meet with a person in a safe setting and help them process and work through that. And that might be a referral to another agency. It might be a referral to the restoration home. It may be a referral to the groups that we're going to be offering. But then too, we are at Greenlight very much about education and advocacy. It allows us to also do outreach to our frontline workers, to our community, to host on-site trainings for trafficking as we work to really better serve the region in understanding this and how to get involved. And it gives an on-site location, so we're not always having to reserve space in different settings. That can add a little bit of a barrier and a challenge. But there are so many opportunities, I'm sure, too, that we haven't even considered that are going to open up with this resource center. And it gives us then, too, a physical presence both in Dauphin County as well as in Cumberland County. And these two counties work together quite a bit. And Greenlight has already been in these counties all the time, basically. But it gives us a hub to work out of in each location, which is wonderful. But yeah, so we're excited about that initiative. So much more to come on that as we announce the progress. And
Ask us in 6 months.
Ask us in 6 months. There's a lot that's going to come.
Ask us, give us another 6 months.
Exactly. But would you ladies be willing to share some of the victories that we have walked out with survivors in the time? And some were happening even before the home was open when we were collaborating and connecting with folks. But specifically at the restoration home, what are some of the victories that we have seen?
I would say just in looking at the 6-month period of time and observing a resident in the beginning and watching her find a sense of safety, stability, and being able to be a part of saying you have choice, and giving her opportunities to have choice. And as she's moved through phase 1 and has gotten equipped with some life skills maybe that she hasn't had, emotional support, recognizing emotions and things like that. But then as she's moving along, you can see that she has hope, and she's setting goals, where when she first came in, she couldn't see beyond.
Right.
And I feel like her being able to see beyond where she's been and looking ahead is just amazing. I think that's a huge victory. And again, just her making connections between different situations, different programming, different people coming in her path, and how it's all connected to be a part of her story, and how exciting it is to point her to the fact that one day she's going to be sharing her story to other residents who are just beginning their journey. And I just think it's amazing to see just the huge change in 6 months that she's made.
It really has been beautiful.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I celebrate little victories from day to day.
Yeah,
right.
And so some of those, to be honest, I have to think. To most people, they might seem like a very small thing.
But they're significant too.
They're significant. Like if you have a resident and then a family member tells you that, for years they haven't seen who they knew their relative to be because of all the things that had happened, and they hadn't been close to them for a long time. To then hear them casually say, in the last few months, while she's been with you guys, like, I feel like I'm getting my little girl back again. To me, that's a huge victory.
That is huge.
Does it mean she'll be their little girl tomorrow? Guess it depends on the day, to be honest. But the overall hope is that even though we have some days where you go, hold on a second, this is a different side. That's just how it goes. And as people are integrating and becoming whole, I think the opportunity to, I think like Adele said, to let them know that they are loved for their whole being,
Yeah.
and that, you know, they may have some bad days and some stuff may happen, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be cared for or loved. I think that is such the impact of that happening on a person and the way they light up and the way they feel hope and they bounce back quicker. So they may in the beginning have been down longer, and then they start to have more coping mechanisms. But it's also, we cannot discount the fact that there, besides the practical things we're offering and therapy and all those things which they need, there's also that love that's being given, unconditional love. And you know, they're trying to set boundaries, they're trying to do different things. And just the process of walking through that in a healthy way, where sometimes they haven't experienced that in their own settings. Growing up or beyond, they've had conflict and they haven't been able to experience what does it look like to have conflict or have a disagreement about something, but have healthy resolution.
Absolutely.
So for me, watching the growth in those areas is what I would consider a big victory. I mean, there's
It's
lots
huge.
of other victories, but
Right.
you know, the giving back even, I always love that. You know, I know I can speak for myself. I've added probably 10 pounds since the home opened. My God, I'm kind of like, can we do some healthy cooking? Can we please?
There is a lot of baking happening at the home.
Can we please, could you ladies please think about maybe some healthy desserts or something? And I love the heart behind it.
I was just
They
going to
love
say
to
that.
give.
I love
They
her-
love to give
the
it.
heart to give.
Yeah.
And I love that. And she just wants to kind of return the blessing that she's getting. And yes, I think our waistlines all have increased since we've been serving.
We've been serving. It's true. But Michelle, too, you're hitting on a very important piece. As you know, we even just previously defined what human trafficking is for those who maybe don't understand. When a survivor is coming into this program, we might all think, or maybe some have the impression that you've got a woman who is going to be very compliant with all of the programmatic elements, or somebody, yes, there is a gratitude piece. They're excited to be there, and there are pieces they're grateful for, but there are also some times where we do have rough days, and we're dealing with individuals that are coming from very tough backgrounds. You know, trafficking, when your body is being sold and harmed in the way that has occurred to the women that we serve, they're not in a healthy state of mind. That's why they're in our program, is because they are not healthy individuals yet. It's a complex trauma. You touched on that. It is trauma that's built. There's just trauma upon trauma, whether that started in their adolescence or started in their trafficking. But it's a lot of identifying that, working through that, and it doesn't mean that every day is, yay, I'm up. I'm excited to do our power up. I'm excited to go into class. There are some days where it's like, we touched on something in the counseling session and I don't want to get up today. And I am going to be a little bit stubborn. But we also are very empowering in the process, where it is not a top-down heavy type programming. It's a coming alongside. It is the reminding of choice in the process, but also reminding of the goals and where we're headed together in that. But I wanted to note that for those that maybe have never worked in a trauma setting before, or worked with individuals that have been exploited, they have desires and dreams and goals, but it also does not mean that behavior is always great day in and day out, which is why I just want to appreciate too the work that Michelle and Adele are doing, as well as our coaches, because there are hard days, and it is very real in this field for agencies to experience high turnover rates, for agencies to experience what is called vicarious trauma, where the trauma that you're hearing day in and day out has a personal impact on you as well. I look at our team, and some of the things that I am just so very grateful for is the family type dynamic that is there. I think it speaks volumes to both of you, and just the ways that you have led the team. In our coaches, our coaches are volunteers. You know, they're giving anywhere from 4 hours a week to 12 hours a week, depending on their availability. And we have about 12 to 15 coaches. and none of them have run away from us yet. And I don't know what that says about the craziness maybe of all of us serving together. But while we joke about that, there is a very deep sense of connection and community. And there's a deep sense of purpose and what we're working toward together, because our focus is also kingdom work. And we are ministering to the souls of an individual as well that have been very hurt. Can you share what that's looked like for both of you, and how you've kind of interpreted some of how you've worked through maybe some of the challenging moments of working in restorative care, but also, just some of the deeper meaning, and whether that's community for you. Maybe it's pressing in deeper in prayer, but how do you guys cope with that?
Well, I think, as I said before, this happens at this time, this happens at this time. And realizing that, no, sometimes it's not a straight line, and Lord, you're going to take us on a detour. And I've learned to just be present, to listen, when things are kind of going awry, just, again, affirming feelings, referring to case management, or, to Michelle, or to a therapist. But being able to kind of go with the flow. There are highs, and we're laughing, and then all of a sudden the floor drops out.
Sure.
And just kind of going along on the ride with a resident, understanding, and again, just being there. I think just consistency. I just think when you mentioned the coaches, that consistency of coaches being here from month 1 to month 6 speaks volumes.
Significant.
To residents. And I'm usually there during the day. It seems that things get a little hairy in the evening.
Sure.
So maybe I'm not one to speak so much into that, because I don't always experience, the low lows. But just being able to be a listener, to love, to give a hug when a hug is wanted, you know, and just affirming.
Yeah. And I want to dive into that. Evenings can be challenging. And this has been something that has been expressed by survivors, that nighttime is scary, because that was when traffickers or buyers would frequent their rooms. It could have been a time when a parent was sexually harming that individual. So nighttime does bring a lot of that. It can cause a lot to surface, especially when you're working through the trauma and the healing during the day. And so those are huge areas too for a listener. If you're even wondering what are ways I can partner or even pray, maybe set an alarm at like 7:00 at night and pray for us. Pray for those evening shifts. We have very great tools that we are able to work through and process through, and the team does a phenomenal job with that. But it doesn't mean that those challenges are not present either. And so that surrounding a prayer is huge as well. Yeah. But Michelle,
If I can remember what I was going to say.
Sorry, I know. I took us on a rabbit trail.
Well, I think the one thing that's sticking with me at the moment is that in terms of dealing with vicarious trauma and things like that, the way I see it is our whole team is a unit, including the women we're serving.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
And so just like the Bible talks about, as a body, if the little toe is hurting, the whole body suffers. And so if any one of us is the weakest link that week or down, then it's imperative that we press into God and we press into prayer as well, so that we all stay in a healthy state.
It's huge.
I feel like walking through things, I earlier as we were talking, I was thinking about when I first started working with women in trauma, even teens in trauma, which was a long time ago. And I felt like I wanted to let listeners know this because, as you were saying earlier about people expect, they might think everybody comes in and they're going to go through the program, come out, everything's roses.
Right.
And I know that as a Christian, when I first started out with this walk with God, he would say something was going to happen, and I thought he meant the next day.
Sure.
And sometimes he meant 30 years later, and I was like, what do you mean? It should be soon. And so I had to manage my own expectations. When I first started working with people in trauma, I had those rosy-colored glasses. I thought because God was in me and God was at work, that, the minute somebody came in to work with us, then they were going to be healed like that, or they were not going to have any problems. And I learned that was not always how it works. In fact, sometimes it could work that way, but many, many, many times it is a marathon, like Adele said earlier. It's a marathon walking through life with people. And what I learned too is that we can offer things.
Yeah.
We can have our programming together and we can offer things. But ultimately, it is up to the women going through the program to make decisions for themselves and to be able to overcome the challenges of the trauma. We can offer resources, certainly, and we offer love. We offer a safe place to do that. But ultimately, as they're walking through their journey, they are making choices every day. And we can't force that, nor are we responsible for the choices they make.
Right.
We're responsible for offering the best place to heal, the best programming that we can offer, and encouraging them to be able to use the knowledge that they have of the understanding of themselves to be able to make the choices that they want to make and the goals. So it is a process.
It is a huge process. And sometimes there are heartbreaking choices that are made. And that can be very challenging for our team, even in seeing what is in front of a person and the opportunity that's there and the hard choices that can happen. It's important to note this is a voluntary program. We have had women that have that thought that they were ready for the programming, started it, and then went back into the life. And, and so there are choices that can be made, but what is consistent is we are still always extending a hand to that person, and we're still pursuing as well. We don't give up on that individual or lose that opportunity, but there is the reality that there are stages to this and stages of readiness and choices that are being made all throughout. But just something that is so beautiful of our team. I'm grateful for the steadfast nature of the team, the intentional pursuit for a person while also being very much open in that choice. But two, I want to note just even some of the programmatic components of, there is a lot of choice. There is a lot of flexibility in areas. But as we look at the phases and the structure and services offered, women that come into our restoration home program, they're working through case management. They're getting set up on benefits, whether those are food benefits, medical benefits, dental care, all sorts of things. She's learning how to use those benefits while she's at the home, so that when she leaves, she knows how to navigate the various systems and processes. We've been able to offer, thanks to very generous partners, free dental care, free medical care, psychiatric care, licensed counseling. There is a lot that is invested into the women at the restoration home. We even have things like clothing donations where, every basic need a person would have or need is cared for, whether that is because of faithful business partners, but also especially thanks to donors who are giving and allowing us to be able to do what we do, as well as volunteers who are helping us stretch those dollars as well. It is not an inexpensive pursuit of a person that is experiencing this pain, which is why we also steward these resources very well, and we're always assessing progress. We're consistently looking at the readiness of a person even before intake happens. There are regular assessments that are occurring. We're also looking at further opportunities and doors that are opening to explore those opportunities with the ultimate goal of sustained independence, but knowing this happens incrementally. It's not happening overnight. I just wanted to take a moment to even highlight just some of those services that we offer, but also just to give a thank you to anybody who has partnered with us in any capacity. Thank you, because it truly is changing lives and providing hope to individuals. It is reuniting moms with their children. It is providing vital health care and dental care. So many components that maybe don't get seen day to day by most of you who are listening in, but are making significant impact in a woman's life. So thank you for your support. But as we close today's episode, are there any final remarks that the two of you have as we close out our discussion on programming and healing and where we're headed in our growth trajectory within restorative care? Any final remarks as we wind down?
I would say if anybody's listening to this and your heart has been touched that you would like to know more and you'd like to become involved, I would say please reach out to us
Yes.
at greenlightoperation.org. We would love to hear from you. We do need, please don't think we have enough coaches or enough everything.
Right.
We can always use more
Yep.
because as we're growing and expanding, we need more hands on deck. And also that layering in of support will help all of us as a team to feel more refreshed and to be able to help more women. And also if you're out there watching by chance and you have been a victim of human trafficking, or you're not sure if you're a victim of human trafficking, again, I'd ask you to reach out.
Yeah. We do on
There's
our website. There is a restoration tab that provides a referral guide in the application if you are somebody looking for housing replacement. And then for volunteering, we have the volunteer tab. So Michelle is absolutely right. Please go to the website and check out the resources.
I would just say it's been such a rewarding experience for me to be involved in the preparation of the home. I called it purposeful painting or painting with a purpose as we did some preparations in the home, being a coach and working alongside other coaches and just the family feel of it all and supporting one another, lifting each other up in prayer, not only for our day-to-day in the home, but for our families.
Right.
It's just been a wonderful experience. And then being able to work alongside of Michelle and learning from her years and years of experience, learning and growing and has just been very rewarding to me. And I just feel so very blessed. I'm so thankful to be a part of the team. And just invite anyone out there to reach out.
Yeah.
And we can talk to you and see how we can get you on board.
Thank you. And thank you, ladies, for joining in our discussion today. And for those listening, thank you for tuning in. As both Adele and Michelle have shared, there is room for involvement and joining the team. And so please check out those opportunities at greenlightoperation.org and also partner with us in prayer. The work is, yes, we have our physical work, but there is also the spiritual battle that we face as well. And so please surround us in prayer. Pray for the women that we have met and those we have yet to meet. But thank you so much for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about our restorative care services and ways to get involved again, go to the website or you can email us at info@greenlightoperation.org. But thank you so much for tuning in and we're truly grateful for this opportunity.